Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, that's right, you read the title, you know what I'm reviewing, and as was teased in the last review video, it's obvious, I'm sure you knew, but yeah. Anyways, so yes, that's right. Finally, at long last, I am reviewing one of the first installments of this film series. Yeah, and you know, who'd have thought that the first one would turn out to be a really cool, delightful, charming, cute, sweet, wholesome film based off of, you know, a series of books of this one bear from darkest Peru. That's right, from 2014, Paddington. Yes, the first Paddington film, in between 2014 and 15, because, because it came out in between both of those years, you know, even, because around, in the U.S., when it came out in the U.S., it was released, literally the start of 2015, so yeah. And also, happy anniversary to the first Paddington film, by the way. Cannot forget to mention that. Yeah, so the first Paddington film, well, I, of course, even before the Paddington films existed, I was technically aware of the bear himself, Paddington. I had a book of Paddington, just one, and as I recall, yeah, my mom obviously read that to me, so again, I was technically aware and a little bit familiar with Paddington. And that was until, well, when the first movie happened, and, well, I, of course, remember when this came out. Didn't get to see this in theaters, but I'm pretty sure I knew by then, when it came out, it was received pretty well. You know, not to mention, whom would direct Paddington and would direct its sequel, and just so happens he would go on to direct, say, other films like Wonka. Paul King. Yeah, good old Paul King. What he brought to, the Paddington films, and even though, yeah, he only directed the first two, he did not direct the third film, but he was still involved, and, you know, surely, he knew that, you know, wanting to make the second Paddington sequel really good, so, yeah. But yeah, what the first Paddington film had to offer with its story from beginning to end, with its cast of characters, amazing CG animation on Paddington, great voice acting, the funny and emotional moments here and there, the film's antagonist, almost like a living cartoon villain, don't you think, when you watch this movie and whom plays the main antagonist? I tell you, but until I mention her some more. Yeah. And as I recall, I think, yeah, I had seen this movie before, but rewatching this, yeah, I hadn't seen it in quite a while, and this was the first time in quite a while that I had watched this fully. And I gotta say, of course, it was no disappointment for me. I really enjoyed this. Again, what the first Paddington film had to offer with its story from beginning to end, and what Paddington gets himself into, him going from darkest Peru to London, England, and where the adventure would take place all throughout London for good old Paddington. Yeah, what more do I have to say? The first Paddington film, excellent. It's an excellent, charming, cute, wholesome, delightful film. Need I go on? And I know I'm going to be saying that again when we come up to the end of this review. Okay, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. After a deadly earthquake destroys his home in Peruvian rainforest, a young bear makes his way to England in search of a new home. The bear, dubbed Paddington for the London train station, finds shelter with the family of Henry and Mary Brown, although Paddington's amazement at urban living soon endears him to the Browns. Someone else has her eye on him. Taxidermist Millicent, you know what, I'm not going to say her last name, has designs on the rare bear and his hide. Yeah, okay. All right, so, getting into the film itself, yeah, because, well, starting off where, we start with this, like, old home footage or something. An explorer by the name of Montgomery Clyde, who basically has made his way into darkest Peru and has discovered these intelligent bears, even when he introduces them to this dish, which being called marmalade. Yeah, that's right, marmalade. And somehow the bears, they know how to speak English thanks to Montgomery Clyde, and well, even giving one of the bears his explorer's hat and such. And keep in mind, this is in black and white, but I'm pretty sure we can get a good idea on what that hat specifically looks like and in color. Yeah. And even telling them about London and be very welcomed in London and such if they ever travel there. Yeah. And, well, many years passed, and by that point, the bears, well, they've known how to speak English, and their fascination and attempts to travel to London. Well, the three bears... three bears, it's true, our Aunt Lucy, being voiced by Imelda Staunton, if I'm saying her last name right, aka Umbridge. Yeah, her. And also, Uncle Pazuzu, if I'm saying that right, yeah, being voiced by the late legendary Michael Gambon, aka the second Albus Dumbledore. Yeah. And their nephew, young Paddington, and Paddington being played by Ben Whishaw, I think, yeah, I'm saying his last name right, aka Q in the James Bond films with Daniel Craig. Yeah, that's him. Well, and he had, by that point, yeah, he had already begun to be Q, like around the same time, like when he would become the voice of Paddington, so anyways, so yeah. So, life for the three bears, Paddington, along with his aunt and uncle, going pretty well. And, when at one point, Paddington discovers these specific oranges and all the marmalade that they've kept and such. And again, them talking about the hopes and dreams of going to London. But when at one point, and as I read in the description / the story, a crazy earthquake happens in darkest Peru, and sadly, their home is lost as well as Paddington's uncle. Sadly, he gets taken away by the earthquake. He's lost. All that remained after the earthquake, especially from the uncle, was his hat that Montgomery Clyde lent him, yeah. And even a snow globe, a snow globe of London. And, well, what now? What's going to happen to Paddington and his Aunt Lucy? Well, Aunt Lucy decides for her nephew to travel to London and to find a new home. As for her, she will go to the retirement home for bears, and even putting a tag over Paddington's neck, take in this bear, he needs a home and such. And even now, Paddington is wearing the hat that was once worn by his uncle, but even before his uncle, Montgomery Clyde, yeah, and the hat being red, and yeah. However, we don't see him wearing something else, but that comes in very later on, okay? So yeah. So, an emotional goodbye between Paddington and his aunt, and which, by the way, Paddington was never named Paddington from the start, because, well, as I read in the description / the story, but still, I'm still going to call him Paddington even before we hadn't even get there when he is officially named Paddington, because how they speak their names, the bears, is just, the bear roar, the bear growling. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, Paddington making his way to London, and even avoiding and hiding from the humans, but even when he arrives in London, and when he accidentally gets in, slips into one of those mail bags and is taken to, well, the train station. And when he gets out of the mail bag, crowd of people are passing by him in the train station. nobody seems to even care that there's a bear in the train station with a case and with a hat. I mean, wouldn't Paddington think so too? I guess. I don't know. But they're not even paying attention to him. They don't care. Apparently, they don't care, even when he's talking. So Paddington just sitting by the side and, him having a snack and marmalade, a sandwich. But then these pigeons showing up, and that would be a gag that we would see a couple of times in this movie. Those stupid pigeons would not leave poor Paddington alone. Until at a certain point when, he does give a piece of sandwich that he has been stowing in his hat all that time. Yeah, a key moment that happens with those pigeons, but until I get there. Then at one point, Paddington notices, a train coming in, and this family getting off this train, which being the Browns. We have Henry Brown, being played by Hugh Bonneville, I think, I'm saying his last name right. Mary Brown, the wife of Henry Brown, being played by good old Sally Hawkins, and their two kids, their daughter Judy, being played by Madeline Harris, and Jonathan, being played by Samuel Jocelyn. Yeah, Samuel Jocelyn. Yeah. And, Henry noticing Paddington and just wanting to pass by him as quick as they can. However, Mary takes interest in Paddington and notices that maybe this bear may need some help, and, where is his parents, and so on. Well, and Paddington even establishes this, that unfortunately he lost his parents at a very young age, and, that explains why he had been living for quite a while with his aunt and now his late uncle. Yeah. And Mary, doesn't take too long for Mary to wanting to help out this bear, but Henry, he does not like the sound of this, and even when there's a moment between just Henry and Paddington, and when trying to get to know the bear and asking his name, and again, just and Paddington encouraging and telling Henry to, try that, just speak in bear, and whatever Henry said, Paddington told him that, oh, Mr. Brown, that's offensive. Well, how is he supposed to know? Just, not giving him the exact instructions on how to specifically say some specific words in bear talk. So what happens next is, Mary, wanting to help out the bear and allowing him to stay at their home for one day. Henry is against this, but then he gives in and just, for one night. And when trying to figure out what to name him, that's when Mary notices that, the name of the train station that they're at is Paddington. She notices the words Paddington, and thus the bear's English name is Paddington, and thus that's how he gets his name, his English name and such. And thus, Paddington tagging along with the Browns and them driving through the streets of London, and even their taxi driver, which being Joe being played by good old Matt Lucas. He'd be best known for, say, being Tweedledee, Tweedledum in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland films, despite the fact he only directed the first one, but still, and also playing one of the companions in Doctor Who during the era of the 12th incarnation. And speaking of the 12th incarnation, coincidentally, but until I mention him, but I'm sure you know by now, even hence I'm wearing the shirt, best shirt I can wear, and hey, UK, British, so anyways, so them traveling, Paddington then is, traveling with the Browns back to Windsor Gardens, Winshore Gardens, my bad. And again, you know me sometimes, and if I do pronounce some specific words, while reviewing this, but anyways, so Winshore Gardens, the street that they live on, and it's a nice house that they live in, and, Paddington feeling right at home, but again, it's just for one night. And there's even a mentioning of, say, an orphanage that they can take Paddington to if, and then another thing is, if they cannot find specifically on whom to take Paddington in, then they can take him to the authorities. That's especially on Henry. And also, Paddington, he suggests that maybe they should find the explorer that came to him and his aunt and uncle, which of course being Montgomery Clyde, even though, despite that, Paddington and his aunt and uncle never learned the explorer's name for now, but until, they find out who it is, and maybe Paddington can go to him. What happens next is Mary tells Paddington that maybe he should freshen up, clean himself and such. And like what was in the trailer, where Paddington, he's in the bathroom, and just a bunch of craziness happens in the bathroom. Those toothbrushes. He doesn't know how to use a toothbrush and what it's specifically for. And he puts them in his ears, and they're battery active, those kind of toothbrushes, and just getting them out, and oh my gosh, so disgusting. Well, I guess he technically needed it, to really clean out his ears. in need of cleaning the inside of his ears, and even he tastes it. Jeez. And then he goes for what he thinks could be mouthwash or something, but no, it's something that's chemical and so on, for bathrooms. And if that's not enough, well, he goes for the toilet, but his head gets stuck, in the toilet lid, and causing the toilet to overflow and causing, a lot of water to, start to flood the bathroom, and it just gets out of hand. And then we also get the introduction of someone else that lives in the Browns' house and is basically cleaning, always keeping their house nice and spot clean, that being Mrs. Bird, being played by good old Julie Walters, a.k.a. Mrs. Weasley. Yeah, I mean, a lot of, just about a few Harry Potter cast members being in this. Well, it never fails. Sometimes there'll be a good chunk of UK film show materials where you would once in a while see some Harry Potter cast members reunite and such, right? Most notably Doctor Who. Anyways. Again, Paddington starting to flood the bathroom, and sure enough, when Henry goes to check to see what the heck's going on by opening the door, oh my gosh. And of course, Henry not pleased with this, and then, Paddington, he starts to write letters to his Aunt Lucy on what's been going on with him and, giving her updates. And, Paddington, basically, in his way, describing the Brown family members, what Mr. Henry's like, or, the two kids. Most notably, the two kids, Jonathan, he wants to become an astronaut, but his father doesn't really like this, and even having him play, old educational toys that he played. And as for Judy, she's kind of a bit of, an embarrassing kid, doesn't like to be embarrassed, I should say, listening to her tunes, has a crush on a boy at her new school, and learning Japanese, so, when she's older, she can run away and, start a business. God. And as for, say, Mary, she is, she basically writes adventure stories and is having difficulty picturing the face of the hero of her story. So, yeah, but I think we know, maybe some of you do, where that could lead up to. Yeah, her hero and such in her story. But anyways, and even, Paddington describing Mrs. Bird a little as well, her, again, and as I said, her always keeping things spot and clean in the house, but yeah. So then, right after Paddington, he writes his letter to his Aunt Lucy. Mary checking up on Paddington and recommends/suggests Paddington that maybe they should meet with someone that she knows of at an antique store. Maybe he can help out Paddington know whom he is specifically looking for, and so on. Yeah, and that's what happens. The next day, they're all out for today. each of the two of the kids going to school. And while at one point, they go down a subway station, and once again, Paddington getting to in a clumsy situation where he doesn't understand how, like, say, an escalator works, and even, like, noticing a sign that has to do with a dog, and he stole a dog from someone, and even, like, having to lift his right leg up, because one sign mentions that, but he takes it in a different way, and it's pretty funny. And eventually, coming to this antique store, and whom they meet with, Mary and Paddington, that being Mr. Gruber. I'm saying that right. Being played by good old Jim Broadbent. And Mr. Gruber could possibly help out Paddington in knowing whom he's wanting to meet specifically. The explorer. And even when Mr. Gruber analyzing Paddington's red hat. But at one point, Paddington notices someone, he doesn't realize, he's pickpocketing, Andre the Thief, that's him, being played by Matt King, I'm pretty sure I've seen Matt King before, because the name sounds familiar, but anyways, so, Paddington spotting someone who is pickpocketing, but little does Paddington know, and, Paddington noticing him, and, the pickpocketer, Andre the Thief, he actually dropped the wallet that he stole from someone in the antique shop. It dropped in his hand pocket, and Paddington thought that he lost it, and trying to catch up with him, and and Andre the Thief, like, getting out of there, and a little bit of a funny chase sequence where Paddington, he accidentally gets on a skateboard, wearing a, old style police hat, those kind of police hats, and with a whistle, and Andre the Thief saying, like, it's a little police bear, and when he takes a cab, and all throughout, like, say, not really, but still, like, one part of the streets of London and where the antique shop is, Paddington trying to chase him down, give him back his wallet. Again, little does Paddington know. And again, he's on a skateboard, and even when he, catches a ride on a double-decker bus, and coming face-to-face with that guy with the puppy that Paddington not intentionally stole, but it's pretty funny. And until, Paddington, he at one point is flying in the sky because he's holding on to, like, some rope or something, and with the double-decker bus, and just so happens that, and the dog owner, because, the dog owner being played by Ian Mitchell. I'm pretty sure, I have seen him before in a couple of other films, but point being is that, they, at one point, just so happens, as I said, that near the school that that Judy is at, and, Judy and all of her other classmates, they notice Paddington flying in the sky, and up until Paddington lands on the thief, and knocking out a bunch of other wallets that this guy stole. And, little does Paddington realize that he did a heroic thing. He stopped the pickpocket thief, Andre the Thief. And all of Judy and her classmates, they start to cheer for Paddington. And the boy that Judy had a crush on, Tony, that's who it is. Tony being played by Jude Wright, finding Paddington cool. And even Judy now realizing that, there's something about Paddington, and thus, applauding for him. And, after that, everybody starts to give Paddington a standing ovation when he comes back to the antique shop. And just in time, Mr. Gruber, he figured out and analyzed the red hat that Paddington wears. And it's an old hat, and, with its label, marking. And that being, and they figure out the name is Montgomery Clyde. And also finding out about this old, Explorers Club, and that being the Geographers Guild. I think I did pronounce that right. So that's where they have to go, and maybe they can find the information and details on when this explorer, Clyde, had traveled to darkest Peru and met Paddington and his aunt and uncle. For Henry, he he's still not pleased and, well, really wanting Paddington out of the house, and even him taking charge. But as for, say, Judy and Jonathan, well, especially Judy, she feels bad for not being nice to Paddington at first. And mainly because, well, she had, started at a new school and so on. And even Paddington tells Judy that, and he knows what it's like, it's not easy being in some place new. And yeah, Paddington's not wrong. Yeah, that's a fact. And yeah, Judy starts to, grow a bond with Paddington, and, well, even Jonathan from the beginning, yeah. And, Judy even showing Paddington that he is popular on the paper, yeah, because made headlines. And there's even a moment where Mrs. Bird tells Paddington, but especially to the kids, on what their father used to be like, because sometimes in this movie, Jonathan especially commenting that, his father is annoying and boring and such. However, again, Mrs. Bird gives them a little background on what their father was like, and we get this like Easy Rider vibe almost, where he was a cool guy, just riding on his bike, and again, Easy Rider vibes, not to mention Born to be Wild is played a little right here, because, well, seeing Henry and Mary, they made their way to the hospital because she's about to give birth. But after that, and when he soon became a father, his personality changed completely. Even no longer having a bike, instead, this car, and just, yeah, and from there on. So, yeah. Ever since he became a father, it was not easy, and yeah, a bit of him changed, if not all of him, but still. And then, there's a moment where Jonathan and Judy, they actually help out Paddington be all freshened up some more, and even when, yeah, because, like, giving him a bath, and when they blow dry him, all that fur just, and sure enough, Henry starts to, start to appreciate and accept Paddington more. And even when Mrs. Bird whips out an old, like, blue coat that Henry used to wear at a young age, and thus Paddington now wears it, and thus he not only gets his iconic red hat, but the iconic blue jacket/coat. Oh yes, this is where Paddington's full final wardrobe steps in. So after that, well, and to speed things up, because, yeah, didn't talk about her yet, the main antagonist, because she, at one point finds out about this bear that has traveled his way from darkest Peru to London, that being Millicent. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am pronouncing her name right. Being played by good old Nicole Kidman. Yeah, and she's basically, she works at the Natural History Museum, and she's a taxidermist. You know what that means, and oh boy, that's not a good sign. And it doesn't take you that long, I'm pretty sure, to understand and realize the personality of her character. Yeah, because she's crazy. She's a delinquent. And, her desperately going after Paddington and making and as General Grievous would say it, make a fine addition to my collection. Yeah, because all these other stuffed animals that she has, even when a monkey came in and, oh no. And how she found out about this bear, which of course being Paddington, making his way into London and such. I believe it's Grant. Yeah, Grant, being played by Kevon Nuvok, because he happened to be at the ship where Paddington got on board, and when he discovered that, yeah, jars of Melandrin, the food and such, and noticing paw prints, and yeah, and that's when Millicent, she becomes interested and fascinated, and knowing that this sounds like it's a bear, and even when at one point she snuck her way into the Paddington train station, tranquilizing two security guards who were watching the monitors of the train station, literally tranquilizing her. Again, we can tell already how crazy she is. She's a complete psychopath, but in a cartoony way. She's almost like a cartoony villain in real life, don't you think? Because even when I was watching like one or two reactions to the first Paddington movie on YouTube, and one of them said, yeah, and I'm sure you would agree too, just, yeah. And Nicole Kidman, oh, she is fantastic in this. What she brought to the villain of the first Paddington film, oh, she was good. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, she must have had a blast doing this movie, and with the villain that she plays. So, anyway, so yeah, again, her tranquilizing the two security guards and checking out the monitors to see if one of them managed to capture footage of the bear making his way out of the train station, and just so happens she finds it, where, yeah, we see Paddington and the Brown family getting in that taxi cab and getting a good look at the bear's face and the license plate. And, well, it's obvious what's going to happen next, yeah, because, she catches a ride in the same taxi cab and trying to get information from the driver, which of course being Joe. Even when, like, she's not really getting that much from Joe and he's not really gonna say anything to her, she literally ties him up upside down, like near a bridge. Again, that's how crazy she is. God, but entertaining at the same time in that way. And yeah, unfortunately, Joe does give her the information, sadly. And even when, like, she, cuts him off, and having him, hit the ocean, just, oh my gosh. And coming back to the Browns family, well, and to speed things up still, because, yeah, sure enough, the next day, Paddington and Henry, they do make their way to, the location that they're supposed to go to, the Geographers Guild. And it's pretty funny, because what happens there, because, well, when they ask, for a file / footage of, of this explorer having gone to Darkest Peru, nothing comes up, and they're even asked to leave, and, well, something's a bit suspicious, don't you think? And that would be impossible. And that's when Paddington comes up with an idea, and getting Henry, dragged into this, where, they get in an elevator, and they go into one specific room where, yeah, they can find the files of Darkest Peru. Even, like, Henry, he's not really sure about this, and when they get in the elevator, and one moment where, for the first time we see this, Paddington gives Mr. Brown the hard stare. Yeah, because that whole thing, and it's pretty funny. And according to Paddington, he learned that from his Aunt Lucy. Yeah, and Henry was even, like, feeling uncomfortable, and just, is it getting hot in here? Because of that stare he was given by Paddington. So, what happens next is, Paddington has Mr. Brown in disguise as a lady cleaner, with a cart and such. It's funny, and man, just, Hugh Bonneville, like, good, they were all fantastic in this, and he was good too, yeah. Yeah, and also, some other familiar, like, to name some of the other cast members, like, there was Master Gruber being played by Johnny Derbyshire, and Master Gruber's aunt being played by Mary Roscoe, and there was a policeman played by Dominic Coleman, class teacher of Judy's played by Luella Gideon, yeah, I think I said that right, Pupil being played by Tarek Blake, Trader being played by Ross Boatman, and two security guards. They're credited as Paddington Station security guards, being played by Steve Oram and Tom Meaton. Yeah, they were the two that got tranquilized, it's obvious. And yeah, the Geographers Guild receptionist, I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say, but again, you know me sometimes. Well, yeah, being played by Alice Lowe, she wasn't finding anything, and, she just told them to leave, but that's when, yeah, they snuck in. And, one of the other characters that we see at, the Geographers Guild, yeah, Barry. Barry being played by Simon Farnaby, just interacting with, Mr. Brown, who is in disguised as a lady, and it's really funny because, well, yeah, the first time they come across each other after getting off the elevator, and even when they try to find the files of, Darkest Peru, and Mr. Brown has to keep the guy busy while Paddington, and nice to see that he surprisingly knows how to work a computer, checking the rest of the files. And, it just gets funny, and the guy interacting with Mr. Brown and noticing his original, tag or something, and, he changed and did something on his face, and even pointing out that he has a, plastic arm, and even when pinning his arm, he has to keep it together, not, pretend that he's not feeling any pain. That scene just, oh my gosh. So eventually, they find all the files they need, and even when stowing them back in, and accidentally, Paddington, while he was doing that, he was eating his sandwich, and accidentally, his sandwich was put in one of those tubes, and, the marmalade, the marmalade sandwich, I should say. And, well, this caused some sparks and such to go off, and just, yeah. And luckily, Mr. Brown and Paddington, they managed to get out of there on time, and, yeah. And, yeah, thankfully, because they have what they need, and by playing the old footage, well, they discovered that, yeah, and apparently it was hidden, it was kept secret, but why exactly? Well, we don't know just yet, but until later on. So looking at the footage and discovering the name of the explorer, Montgomery Clyde, yeah. And apparently, yeah, Paddington, has a vision to himself of, darkest Peru and such, but yeah. So now they know who Paddington should meet with. And even especially when things were looking so good for the Browns, and Paddington, seems like, slowly but surely being one of them, but yeah. But anyways, and still, to speed things up, because, yeah, Nicole Kidman's character, the main villain, Millicent, still trying to locate and find the bear, and when she does so, arriving her way to, where Paddington is currently present at, again, being Winshore Gardens, and just so happens that, she's in a telephone booth, and she comes face-to-face with the Browns' next-door neighbor, and that being Mr. Curry. Yeah, now finally mention Mr. Curry. And Mr. Curry being played by the 12th Doctor himself, Peter Capaldi. Yes. The 12th Doctor. Yep, because both Capaldi and Matt Lucas being in this, and around the time when, when Capaldi became the 12th incarnation, and even when, very later on, Matt Lucas would become a part of Doctor Who, being a new companion. Yeah, alongside, being the companion with the 12th incarnation, and even when, Bill Potts stepped in a little later, but yeah, anyways. So Mr. Curry, it's love at first sight for Mr. Curry, and willing to help out, Millicent, to get the bear, because, yeah, Mr. Curry being well aware that the Browns have a bear living with them. And there's even one moment where, the Browns, they leave for the day, and, they're still helping out Paddington know where possibly this explorer could be, and even if he could still be alive, because keep in mind, that was many years ago, and when we would come to present time of this movie, so it's hard to tell, but yeah. And Paddington, being left home alone, and seems like, yeah, even he assures the Browns that he can manage without them, without anybody being there to keep him company. And even when he's trying to look through a phone book, all the names that go by the last name Clyde. And, well, at one point, Mr. Curry phones up Millicent, and the sweet romantic names that he wanted him and her to give for each other, just, yeah. But point being is that Mr. Curry informs her that, yeah, Paddington is home alone, and thus, her chance to go in and to get the bear. But for Paddington, well, there's one moment where he accidentally rips one piece of the phone book, and he tries to use tape to tape it back, but of course, I think we know where this is going. Yeah, having trouble with the tape, and even when, little does Paddington know that someone comes in from the rooftop, and that, of course, being Millicent, and Paddington at one point mistakes her for an elephant. Okay, how does she look like an elephant? But, you know, anyways. And again, Nicole Kidman at her finest in this movie. She's so good at this, and even when Paddington is accidentally causing her to be lifted back up because her on a wire and she's coming through the rooftop, you know, spy techniques and such, you know. And it just gets out of hand, and even, like, say, a couple of times where we would see Mr. Curry listening through a glass cup, you know, what's going on, you know, on the other side of the building, you know. And, well, nothing intentional, and Paddington didn't mean to start anything, but, well, Millicent did, because, well, a fire technically starts, yeah, to put it this, yeah, a fire starts, and at least the house, the entire Brown house didn't catch on fire, but in the end, yeah, a bit of disaster striking, and, well, she got out of there, and even when, well, Paddington, he tries to tell the Browns on what exactly happened and whom he saw coming through the rooftop, and they don't believe him at first, most notably Henry. And sadly, this is where things go downhill, and Henry, even when he was starting to, you know, grow attached to Paddington and they were starting to get along, he just goes straight back wanting Paddington out of their house. You know, they'll take him to the authorities. Mary, you know, she then gives in, and yeah, because they may very well take him to the authorities. And Paddington overhearing this, and, well, Paddington feeling so guilty, he even packs up, even, you know, before they do anything. He leaves that evening, and even left them a note. And Paddington, roaming through the nighttime streets of London, even when it starts to rain, he tucks into one of the, you know, these booths where the guards are, you know, at the royal family mansion. And this was very sweet of the one guard where he offers Paddington a sandwich and a couple of others. And even when the pigeons, they showed up once again, but yeah. But unfortunately, the guard had to tell Paddington to get out of here. I mean, he had to stick to duty, so yeah, there's nothing he can do about it. And, well, the next day, the Browns discovering that, yeah, Paddington leaving a note, and, you know, he would never bother them again, and searching whom he's going to look for, Montgomery Clyde, and going through, you know, going to each house, going by the last name Clyde. No Montgomery Clyde, up until when he comes up to this one house where he presumes that, you know, it's, you know, number 60 so on, and, well, yeah, when it seems like he's given up, and, yeah, just so happens that he sees another house where, yeah, it has that specific number, because the one that he was at, the number was kind of, you know, broken, it was upside down, but, you know, you get the point. And when going to the house, well, and when, you know, hitting the buzzer and a voice, you know, talks, and, you know, the mentioning of Montgomery Clyde, do you not recognize that female voice? I think it's obvious who could be, and the connection to what we are about to find out. Because when Paddington is offered to come inside, he comes face to face with the main villain, and it turns out she's the daughter of the late Montgomery Clyde. Yeah, Millicent Clyde. Yep, that's her full name. Yeah, even I kind of knew, and I'm pretty sure I did know, but again, it had been quite a while since I've seen the movie, and when I watched it fully, so yeah, when watching it fully, and when it was starting to come up to it, I was like, Oh, I think, yeah, that, I knew it. I knew it. And I'm sure you would too. It would be kind of obvious, one of those things in movies where is so-and-so connected with, that whole thing. Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, she's the daughter of the late Montgomery Clyde. And, yeah, sadly, Montgomery Clyde had sadly passed away. And, well, we get a bit of backstory on what happened with Montgomery Clyde and, with his wife and daughter. Because, yeah, again, she is the daughter of Montgomery Clyde. Apparently, Montgomery Clyde was disqualified from the Explorers Club, and because he didn't bring back a bear, specimen. And, well, Montgomery Clyde being involved in, the whole thing of stuffing animals and such, but he didn't want to bring back a bear because how fascinated he was with those 3 bears. Yeah, and, well, again, he got disqualified, he got kicked out, and, this especially upsetted his daughter, and if her father had brought back a bear, they could have been rich and so on, and that's all she cares about. Jeez. And she vowed one day that she would get a bear that her father failed to do so, and thus, Paddington is whom she's going after. Yeah. But little does Paddington know, and yeah, taking Paddington to the National History Museum, and even Mr. Curry, him discovering that, yeah, what Millicent was doing, and that, she's a taxidermist, and Mr. Curry realizing that, yeah, she's doing a bad thing and feeling heartbroken, and she never had feelings for him at all, and just, yeah, there was never anything between them, according to her. So, Mr. Curry, rightfully so, calling up the Browns in a mysterious anonymous voice, but Mr. Brown, it doesn't take him that long to realize that it's Mr. Curry. Mr. Curry giving them information on where Paddington is, his whereabouts, and that he's been captured, and thus, the Browns making their way to the National History Museum, and they know where Paddington is. And Paddington now realizing that, yeah, his life is in danger and that he will be stuffed, and even when he tried to escape, unfortunately, she got to him already, tranquilizing him. And, well, the Browns, along with Mrs. Bird, them trying to, figure out how to get inside, and Judy at one point suggests that they should go through the sewers, because early on, Mary offered her daughter to join with her, adventuring through the sewers and underground tunnels. She wasn't interested at first, but now she is, yeah. So that's what they do. All of the Brown family members, they go down. But as for Mrs. Bird, well, she distracts one security guard at the National History Museum, offering him a drink and just, would you help, a poor lady, for shelter and such, that whole thing. And it's pretty funny, yeah, with what happens. And boy, does she manage to keep that guy distracted for quite a while. Then what happens next is, again, the Browns going through the underground tunnels of the museum, and even when at one point, nice on Jonathan's part, shutting down, the power and such of the museum, and even when, Millicent was this close to start, killing Paddington and, well, her going to stuff him and such, yeah. And then, at one point, and still, to speed things up, Mr. Brown taking it upon himself to, walk on top of the building, the windows and such, even, kissing Mary and being heroic. And, well, that's when she realizes that, yeah, the hero that she couldn't figure out whom the face would be for her adventure story, it's her husband. Yeah. So, and yeah, he is her hero. So, thus, he gets out of the windows and, making his way, and when he finds Paddington, and, he apologizes to Paddington for not believing him, and, yeah, nice to see. And, yeah, and still, to speed things up, because them roaming around the museum, even when Millicent, she becomes suspicious on what's going on, and noticing that, yeah, humans are present, and, well, Paddington, making his way through the museum, the air ducts, and, Judy even communicating with Paddington, bear growl. So, yeah, and that's another thing, because Paddington was teaching Judy how to speak bear, and thus, yeah, she does so. And even when at one point Paddington comes, up to this, one part of the museum where there's fire and such, and using those tiny vacuums to, use as, suction cups, to climb. And by the way, there was a bit of a music sample of Mission Impossible that was playing, because, well, secret agent vibes and, climbing and such, that whole thing is funny. And hey, coincidentally, because, well, Nicole Kidman's ex-husband, Tom Cruise, being in the Mission Impossible films, that's funny. So yeah, Paddington climbing with those vacuums, but even when, from one to the next, they start to run out of battery, and thankfully, and when even Paddington, he tried to jump out of that air duct, and when it seemed like he didn't make it, well, sure enough, the Browns, they catch Paddington by the leg, and yeah, of course, Paddington, he can't lose the hat. It's like Indiana Jones. He cannot lose the hat. And it seems like, everything's good now, and, they're reunited with Paddington, but not quite, because Millicent, she steps in and still not letting Paddington off the hook that easy at all. And, well, she's got the gun pointed at Paddington, going to, tranquilize/kill him once again. But Mr. Brown takes it upon himself to, protect Paddington. And if he's good, if you're going to kill Paddington, you have to kill all of us. And she accepts it. She's gonna do it. And even her saying that she's never stuffed a human. Again, that's how crazy she is. Just golly, she's willing to do so. But Paddington, he steps in, and of course he doesn't want to see any of the Browns be killed, and now they're his family. So he he allows for himself to be taken in, but before he does so, and even he noticed a pigeon, and oh boy, I think we know where this is going. He whips out the sandwich that he had stored in his hat all throughout the film, and even when he made his way to London the first time, having one last snack before he is to be executed by her. But he throws it at her, and this gets the attention of all the pigeons. They're flying and swarming around her, and when it seemed like she almost, fell off of the building, not quite, and, well, almost about to shoot Paddington, but sure enough, Mrs. Bird steps in, knocks her off, and, opened a hatch, and yeah, and now she's hanging on one of those, poles, that holds flags, and yeah, that's the end and defeat for Millicent, yeah. And again, if I am saying her name right, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure, but again, you know me sometimes, yeah. And yeah, all ends well for Paddington and the Browns. Now, Paddington has officially found a new home, now being one of the Browns. And one last letter that we see that Paddington writes to his Aunt Lucy, and we see Aunt Lucy once again. She's happy and living peacefully at a retirement home for bears. And, well, the aftermath on what had happened all throughout this movie. Again, Paddington now being a part of the Browns family. And as for Millicent, well, she was sentenced to community service, working at a petting zoo and such. Which, yeah, the petting zoo having to do something with her father running that business. So yeah, so now she runs it, and poor Millicent, well, she got what she deserved, and well, even, bunch of other manure is piled on top of her thanks to the monkey. Yeah, nice to see the monkey did survive in the end. And also, what goes on for the Browns? Well, Mr. Brown being a better husband, father, better than ever. Mrs. Bird, she's doing much better, of course, light on her feet. Mary doing pretty good with what she's doing, her adventure stories. And as for, Jonathan and Judy, well, Jonathan doing pretty good now. And even his dad getting involved in, space experiments and such, that whole thing, rocket launches. And Judy, hanging out with her, new boyfriend, I guess you could say, which, of course, being Tony. And, Mary promised not to cry and to hug and touch her new boyfriend and such, but yeah. And even offering them tea, it's pretty funny. But yeah, all ends well for, the Browns and Paddington. And also, in their home, there's this wall decoration and on the stairs, this tree and these birds and flowers blooming, just what a great way to end off Paddington right there. Even when one of the last things we see is, them playing outside in the snow. Yeah, because it's winter time, and yeah. A great way to end off the first Paddington film right there, don't you think? Yeah. The first Paddington film, it's a really good, delightful, charming, wholesome, cute, emotional, funny film, all at the same time. The story to the first Paddington film, really good. The cast of characters, great CG animation on the bear characters, and that of course being Paddington. The funny and emotional moments here and there, really good. Some background, visual effects, the music and score, Paul King's direction for this movie. Just what more do I have to say? The first Paddington film is excellent. And I'm giving the first Paddington film, well, why not? 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for the first Paddington film. And what about you guys? What did you think of the first Paddington film itself? Any of you that got to see this in theaters, or when it came out on digital, DVD, Blu-ray, were you, amazed how good this film was? Did you too find it delightful, charming, cute, wholesome? And what were some of your favorite moments from the first Paddington film? Who was your favorite character? That, of course, mainly going, for Paddington, of course, but still. Again, favorite moments, the funny moments, the emotional moments, the unexpected moments that happen, the twist on, Nicole Kidman's character being the daughter of so-and-so, everything that goes on in Paddington, overall, what do you think of the first Paddington film itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the first Paddington film. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. Take care, and until I review the Paddington sequels, peace out.